Welcome, everybody. It is so fantastic to see so many of us gathered here today. This is our Student Press Freedom Day panel, and my name is Julie Roosa. I want to welcome you here. I'm the First Amendment Specialist at the Greenlee School, and part of my job is to bring together communities to talk about First Amendment related issues. So what better issue to talk about than the hard work that our student journalists have done over this especially challenging year. Now, just a couple of housekeeping announcements to share with you. I have muted the audience in order to be able to focus on our panelists here. So hopefully you'll see that. I also did mute the video or stop video for the audience as well, so we can focus our attention on our panelists. And I just disengaged the chat for now. We will see if we have time toward the end. Hopefully we maybe can share some questions and comments through the chat, but we'll have to see how the time goes. So you should be muted, but just in case, double check me that the audience members are muted, and we'll try to remember as the panelists speak to unmute our microphones. So let me tell you a little bit about Student Press Freedom Day, because that's what brings us all together here right now. And I just had tossed together a quick poll to see how many of us have heard of Student Press Freedom Day before this event. So I'm going to launch that poll. I'm going to ask those who are able to respond to the question so that I can just get a sense of how much awareness there is about Student Press Freedom Day. So here comes the poll. It's a simple, easy one. Yes, no, don't know. Have you heard of Student Press Freedom Day before today's events? Yes, no, or don't know. Just a quick reading of the room here. So if you have the ability to answer the poll, jump in there. We'll give it another 5 seconds or so. We've had many of you have already voted. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Let me share the results with you here. And I think you'll find it interesting. So that about a third of us have heard about Student Press Freedom Day before today's event. The other roughly 70% hadn't heard of it, which is why we're so thankful that you're here today finding out more about it. So let me tell those of you who maybe aren't as familiar about Student Press Freedom Day just a little bit of its history. This day started back in 2019, so it really hasn't been a movement for long. But the goal of Student Press Freedom Day is to raise awareness about the vital work that our student journalists are doing and the impact that they carry. You can hopefully see on my t-shirt that says America Needs Journalists. And I want to add a little carrot there and have you add in there, America Needs Student Journalists as well. The theme this year for this day, which is a nationwide observation of Student Press Freedom Day, the theme this year is Journalism Against the Odds. And I want to read directly from the organization's website. They selected this theme to acknowledge the phenomenal news coverage that student journalists have produced, despite being faced with incredible challenges of a year consumed by not only a global pandemic, but also widespread racial justice protests, a major election, and a rise in targeting and censorship of journalists. So the theme this year is very timely and very important, and I'm glad we have the students here today to talk about their perspective engaging in journalism during this difficult time. Now, you can show your support for the hardworking student journalists on social media by including the hashtag Student Press Freedom on any posts that you put out there today to help generate this support for our student journalists. So hashtag Student Press Freedom, and also if you would add hashtag ISU First, that will help us to also raise awareness about what we're doing here at Iowa State. All right, so enough about the day itself. We want to hear more from the panelists here. So let me welcome our panelists. What I'm going to do is ask them to introduce themselves individually. So rather than me doing an introduction, they'll each take a moment to share with you who they are, also what media they represent or medium they represent, and how they got involved in that particular student organization. So without further ado, I'll just call on each of you one by one, if you don't mind, to keep it just a little bit more rolling here. And so Sage, if you would get us started, please.
Okay, how did I know I was gonna go first? I just could feel it. I'm Sage Smith, and I'm currently the fall spring editor-in-chief of the Iowa State Daily, which is the student newspaper, of course. How I got started in it was I switched from biology to journalism because I learned I couldn't do math, which I'm sure a lot of you could probably relate to that. And then once I got into journalism, I heard Mark Witherspoon, who's our editorial advisor at the Iowa State Daily. I heard his kind of spiel in 3 different of my classes about why the Daily was so great, and I was like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So then all of a sudden I found myself at the offices, and then I was a diversity reporter, moved up to news editor of academics, which I did not think I was even going to get to news editor, let alone editor-in-chief. So, and obviously what our student newspaper is just like any other newspaper. We get out the news that our audiences need, want, and deserve to know. So we have different news desks, we have sports, we have opinion, we have our entertainment and lifestyle, which is more featurey content, all that good stuff. So we do it all. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here today.
All right, thank you. Lauren.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Kruger, and I am the editor-in-chief of Ethos Magazine here at Iowa State. We do more edgy and honest content here. How I first got involved was first semester of my freshman year. My friend said, hey, there's this magazine I heard about. I don't want to go to the meeting alone. Will you go with me? And so I went with her, and I was really interested. I really loved what they were doing. And then I worked my way up through treasurer, articles editor, and now this is my second year being editor-in-chief.
Great, thank you. Tyler.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tyler Campbell. I'm a senior NPR, and I'm here with 88.5 KURE, the campus radio station. And we play, like any radio station, pretty much any music that's not top 40. And in addition, we cover sports and also just new content going on in the music industry and everything kind of entertainment. I got involved my sophomore year of college, and I just saw they were looking for a marketing director, applied, and wanted to get involved with something on campus.
Great, thank you. Jared.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jared Brevard. I'm the general manager of Greenlee School TV, or GSTV for short, which is just a student-run organization here on campus. And we help students learn broadcast journalism skills, whether that's being on the screen or behind the screen. We just focus on broadcast journalism. And I got involved, let's see, the fall of my junior year. I'd added journalism the spring of my sophomore year as a major, and I was looking to get involved in written and broadcast journalism. And I was in JLMC 201, and our assignment one day was to go to the Greenlee Ice Cream Social, which hasn't been a thing obviously this last year, but I went to the Ice Cream Social, and we had to talk with one of the booths there, and GSTV was the one I talked to, and started off as just going in to learn a little bit, and I just got thrown right into being an anchor. And then the next semester I was a producer, and then have become the general manager since then.
Great, and hopefully you had some ice cream too at the same time. All right, Meg.
Hi everyone, so my name is Meg Grice. I'm currently a junior this year in public relations, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Cardinal Eats, our student food magazine. We write on lots of different topics. We have an editorial team, we have a content marketing, social media team. We also do photography as well as design. And I got involved my sophomore year. I wrote for the Daily for my whole freshman year, and then I decided I wanted to try Cardinal Eats because I saw an announcement in the Greenlee newsletter. So I started as the editorial director, and then I moved up to editor-in-chief this semester. So it's been great getting to have writing experience and leadership experience, all related to food media. So definitely something that I enjoy.
Wonderful, thank you. So as you can see, we have an impressive group here to share with us some of their perspective about doing journalism against the odds, in particular this last year. So I'll get us started. And what I'd like to do is ask the question. I'm not going to call on each of you one by one. So whoever would like to respond, you're welcome to. And then as the others have things they'd like to add, please jump in afterward. So we're going to make this pretty free flowing. So the first question is really tell us how the last year has been with the pandemic and all of the other challenges. How has it been different for you on the job, maybe than previous semesters?
I can go if that's okay. So this past year has been crazy. I was a news editor in the spring 2020 semester. So right in the beginning of COVID, where we got sent home for spring break, and then we never got sent back really. So kind of still on spring break if you think about it. But it was definitely really crazy. So I did my presentation to become editor-in-chief virtually. That was like the first like virtual thing that I had to do, and then I got it. So I was in this like weird planning stage where I had to plan and connect with my staff all virtually. We're not in the newsroom, not regularly like we used to be last year. And so there's definitely a lot of challenges that came up with, how do we have proper communication? How do we make sure we're getting everything job related done, and also making sure that our staff connects personally, because that's definitely a huge priority, and that helps the behind the scenes work a lot more efficiently. So what we did is we continued Discord. That's how we do our meetings, our daily budget meetings, and that's been working really well. And we just have been on a ton of different like Google Hangouts and Zoom meetings together and things like that. I've tried my best to still have like fun time. Like we have our Facebook group chat, which is more casual conversation. And then, if problems come up, we've been really quick to respond to the email and, fix it, because everything as far as content wise was still online. We just didn't have a print product, so it was one less step to do. So we still got all that figured out. It was just a lot of like brainstorming, I feel like, which I'm sure a lot of y'all can relate, whether that's in your work life or school. So, just brainstorm together. I utilized Mark Witherspoon a lot because he's my advisor. And so he was really helpful to just, make sure that everything was still getting done, etc. So that's kind of like my summary, I would feel like, of how we've handled it.
Yeah, I would say my experience is pretty similar. The spring semester of 2020, we were in the midst of our spring issue, and we had already had some stories done, and then we were sent home and kind of just had to figure out what we were going to do. And so I decided to just put that issue on pause because we only had a few stories finished, and then we were working on publishing those stories online on our website. And then this past fall of 2020, I was talking to my staff, and we ended up just deciding to take a break from the magazine altogether. Various reasons, mental health, people were overwhelmed with classes and just, online classes. It's definitely an adjustment, and there was a lot everyone was dealing with. So just for, in everyone's best interest and in the magazine's best interest, we took last semester off, but we resumed this semester virtually, and that wasn't without its challenges because, I had some people who didn't want to come back because meetings were just over WebEx, and, we're not in Hamilton Hall every Tuesday night. I kind of got used to that routine last year, and that was kind of just a fun thing to see everybody and see how they're doing. But like Sage said, I try and make it as fun as possible and, send out emails with a lot of exclamation points. Hope everyone's doing well. And especially with this nice weather we've been having, I've been talking about that a lot. And yeah, it's been a challenge, but I've actually become closer with my staff because I feel like they feel more comfortable texting me about things relating to the magazine, excuse me. And then we just end up talking about classes or other things. And so we just become closer on a personal level as well. So that's something positive that's come out of this situation for sure.
For us, we had just wrapped up our 26-hour-long quiz show right before the pandemic hit. So we were all really relieved that that concluded prior to COVID happening. But after that, it's been, like you guys both said, a lot of adjusting to new communication style, reworking DJ shows, reworking events that we have, and just kind of putting a lot of stuff on pause, and seeing if we could do that in the future. But it was a lot of reworking and understanding external and internal communication and how we would go about the future. And as everyone has stated, just kind of learning and taking everything in stride, and a lot of pivoting, I guess, for lack of better terms.
Yeah, so kind of going off of what's been already mentioned, like, this past year has required a lot of adaptability. And with GSTV, we usually met in Hamilton Hall in a studio 2 times a week, and that abruptly ended there around spring break, like Sage was kind of talking about, and we didn't resume shows the rest of that semester. And then, even over the summer after I was elected general manager, I wasn't really sure what it was going to look like in the fall. And then, once we got closer, I was able to talk with our faculty advisor and, my executive board, and we were able to figure out and brainstorm and try to adapt to the situation. And we ended up doing virtual shows just through like WebEx or Zoom, to still provide an opportunity for students who wanted to learn about broadcast journalism. And so we were doing less shows, but we were still doing those shows to help those students get that experience. And, we're still figuring that out for this semester and what that's all going to look like. But, it just comes down to the ability to adapt. And that's been something that's been a big, just factor in this last year, and hasn't been easy, but we've gotten through it, and that's what's most important.
Yeah, kind of going off with what's already been said, it was definitely an adjustment for me, I think, because with Cardinal Eats and last spring, this was the first time I'd ever held a leadership position within student media. So just trying to get used to that, plus a pandemic, was a totally different challenge. But I think we met it in the best way possible because a lot of our articles had already been completed. We were raring to go to at least publish a digital version of the magazine because that's what we've always done. So I think we were prepared in that aspect. And then this past fall was just kind of continuing off of that, despite all of the challenges of being completely virtual and trying to retain student media members. So that, I think, was our biggest challenge, but I think we've really progressed and tried to keep going with Cardinal Eats and just encourage student media and food media specifically, and a love for wanting to write articles and publish content that excites us and we think is important to our students. So I think despite everything that's happened, I'm really proud of what we've accomplished, and I hope that we can finally return to normal at some point, whatever normal is. But yes, fingers crossed for sure, Lauren. So yeah, there's been a lot of challenges, I think, for everyone, but I think everyone has met it excellently.
Yes, I think that you all should add adaptability to your resumes if you haven't already, because that is a huge skill that is not easy. And you've all, kind of rose to that occasion and made it work, and especially as the leaders of your student organizations and motivating others. So along the same lines, but instead of really focusing on the pandemic, maybe with this question, this is one that came from one of our registrants as they were invited to ask a question as they registered. And so the question was, what stands out in terms of your commitment to diversity in particular? We talked about not just the pandemic, but the challenge with the protests that we've seen in the last year and the focus on racial justice and et cetera. So what can you share with us in terms of your commitment to diversity and how you have attempted to maintain that commitment?
I guess I can start. What we didn't do, like I said, we didn't do as many shows as usual, and we don't do shows over the summer for GSTV anyway. But that being said, with our coverage, we try to focus on some local news, but also international news as well. And it's up to our anchors, kind of what they feel is important, and using those news values to pick what they want to share or what they want to do a story about. And so we're very open and accepting of any story that's newsworthy that a student wants to do. And so, it's not my goal as the leader to shut down what a student wants to do. I'm always open and hearing what they, would like to share, and that's up to the producer as well, and working with our anchors to figure out, what kind of coverage do we want to have and all that. So I've just had to, or I guess I've just had a goal of having it kind of be up to the students as we learn those news values, and just choose kind of what they see as most important.
I would also, for us, add on that we spent a lot of time talking as a group because of course with the summers, a lot of those Black Lives Matter protests, etc. And so in that term of diversity, we met with some BLM organizers and just talked with them about how like the media can cover events and things like that in a better light, etc. And so like Jared said, I also talked with my staff about what they kind of wanted to do, and I wanted to hear what their ideas were for their content. And because it's like, again, like Jared said, it's not my position to shoot down their ideas. Like the whole thing that makes us great is that everybody gets a say in what we do. And so it's really cool to have like those conversations with the BLM organizers, and then also see, kind of like my staff's brains going on like, oh, okay, so we could do this kind of content, we could do this story, etc., with this kind of angle. So just a lot of conversations, and like I would provide like the guidance, and then I kind of let them run with it. So yeah.
Yeah, with Cardinal Eats, and I think the same is true for all student media. One thing that I really enjoy is that it's not just people from Greenlee, it's people from all across the university and different majors that can get a lot of enjoyment out of student media and understanding what goes into a news story and why that's important for you to know and why it's important for you to read the news. So one thing I really like about Cardinal Eats is not only do we have a lot of different departments, but we have a lot of people from different backgrounds sharing their cuisines. And so with our theme this semester of homegrown, home lovin', a lot of it has been focusing on family recipes and what makes those different cuisines unique. We've also done a past issue, 7 Flavors of the World, so highlighting other recipes from around the world. And the reason I really enjoy that aspect of food is just because there are so many different tastes and different reasons to enjoy food and what makes it special for everyone. So for that aspect, I think with our magazine, it's something that I've enjoyed and something I love to bring to other students. And that makes us very special and something that just completes the whole experience of student media.
For sure. And I just have to say, I think the Daily has done a great job covering Black Lives Matter protests and just handling that in a really great way. As far as Ethos, we try and write stories about people or groups that are maybe underrepresented. For example, in the past, we've written a story about how certain students had to dumpster dive for food because they couldn't afford it due to the rise in tuition. And so that was something that we felt was important to talk about because that is a big issue in a lot of college campuses across the US, and tuition is rising, people can't afford it, and then that affects their housing, their food, and other things as well. And as one of my professors in Greenlee said, you can't always write the sparkly stories. You know, not everything is going to be rags to riches. Oh, here's this great inspiring story. And those are great to read and they're really feel good moment, but we also have to write, as journalists, we have that duty to write about things that are important and that people need to know about.
88.5 KURE is a lot of DJs would cover what they felt they wanted to do, much like Jared talked about in his shows. We've kind of let them play what they want to do, and we're committed to having a diverse music set. So not just everything one type you'll hear of music, but just a very diverse music kind of culture around that. And that's something I really like about 88.5 KURE. In addition, we've had a lot of internal communication about everything that's gone on in the world over the past year. And that's been really great. And to just have an open forum of a place where we can talk.
Excellent, thank you. These efforts are so important, you know, not only to your audience, but to Greenlee and to student organizations across the board to just continue this effort to make sure that all voices are heard and stories are told. So thank you. I want to ask, sometimes it's easy to focus on the negative in terms of all the challenges of the last year. And Lauren actually kind of already mentioned a positive of feeling maybe even a little bit more close to her staff than otherwise by purposely having to text each other, engage. So what is something positive that you can point to that has resulted from this last year that has been so challenging?
No, Tyler, go ahead. I was gonna say, I was trying to avoid going first.
I always feel like I'm going to step on someone's toes. So in my mind, a positive of 2020 in general, not necessarily the pandemic, but well, that was clearly a bad thing. But I felt like 2020 was a great year for music in general, whether it's an unknown artist or someone huge like Miley Cyrus. You automatically had we have a group of people that if you have a new song you want to listen to or share with someone, you have a whole group that you can talk to. And I feel like 2020 was a great year at KURE to just talk about music or share opinions with each other, write articles about the music that you like or you are passionate about. And that was a great thing about 2020 for us, was all this new music was released, or we learned about new music and stuff. So that was one of the biggest pluses of 2020 for me.
I absolutely love what Tyler said. I like music, but of course I'm not in that industry or anything, but I saw a lot of cool things come up with music, and like I think that's great. That was a great thing to connect people throughout the pandemic, because music is really important to me, so I definitely understand that. So I love what he said. And I was kind of thinking like with the daily, it's just been like I was nervous about us not bonding in the way that I've seen previous staffs bond. Like last year we were in the newsroom all the time and it was amazing. And I missed that so much, but I really have enjoyed watching how my staff has still become a family. Like they're constantly talking in that Facebook group chat and they hang out. And 2 of my staff just met this year and they're gonna live together next year. So that's been a really positive thing, is that they found new ways to connect with each other, you know, and they found new ways to still strengthen their bonds within our organization, which I think is just really cool. Just similar to how like music, like I saw some bands do like at home concerts kind of thing. And so my staff, like the one Sunday budget, I did a Google Hangout instead of Discord, and our copy chiefs made a Kahoot, and so they were learning like about AP style, but they were having fun together. And so that's been a positive, is just like finding unique ways to have fun and connect with each other and still, you know, have those connections, have those relationships, and not get so caught up in the negativity. So that's been really cool. I've really enjoyed that. Like, it warms my heart to see my staff like being all friends, and I'm like, okay, cool. So they still, got that chance of the experience.
My kind of biggest positive in terms of GSTV in this last year is that we were still able to provide students with that opportunity if they wanted it. When I was at the beginning of the fall semester, when I was thinking about trying to get shows running again, I just kind of sent out a survey to all of our members and said, like, hey, who's interested in this semester? Like, I definitely understand all the circumstances and everything that's going on. So I was, in my intention, not trying to provide any pressure, just trying to provide that opportunity to anyone who wanted it. And we had some freshmen and some new members want to join and want to be a part of it. And so, I was happy that they were able to get that experience, regardless of whether we're in the studio or not. Those new members and then a couple of our current members too were still able to have those opportunities to learn and to put something in their portfolio, which my goal going into the semester was, no matter what it looks like, I want students to have those opportunities to learn and build those skills. And so for me, that's what I'm most proud of, and what I would say is the biggest positive is what came out of this.
You can go ahead, Meg.
Okay, sounds great. I think for me, one of the greatest things that I saw was just the surgence in cooking and home living and wanting to recreate the things in the home that we can't necessarily do in our personal lives outside of the home. So I think just watching like different food trends come about, like instant coffee, for example, charcuterie boards, that was another big thing. And also just seeing my staff want to take on those roles and really get involved with the things that are changing along with everything else that's come with COVID. So despite all the bad that's coming, just wanting to meet that with our content and wanting to continue to provide those services for people and show them what's going on, even if it's from a food perspective. So despite all the things that have happened, I just love how my staff has really taken on that role and want to just keep moving forward and get back to some kind of normal. But just keep going and see what else we can do.
For sure. And I think in these times, it's really easy to stay negative and focus on the things that aren't going well or aren't the same as they used to be. So that's why I really love this question about what positive thing has come out of this. I agree with pretty much everyone. Like Jared was saying, I love when people email me, I want to join. How can I join? How do I do that? And it's just so exciting to see people who are excited and willing to learn and join, even though things aren't like they used to be. Kind of a funny story. One of my new writers, I saw her on campus and I said hi, and it took her a second to recognize me, with masks and everything. And she said, I didn't realize you were tall, because she had only seen me over WebEx sitting down. And so that was really funny. And she said, I'm so sorry, I didn't recognize you because, the mask, and I just didn't know you were tall. And so that was just a really funny anecdote that I had to share with my roommates when I came home, because I just thought that was funny, because I didn't even think about it, but she's never met me in person until that point. So yeah, it's definitely different, but we still have these positives and funny moments where we can share a laugh or a smile. And I think really that's what we have to focus on.
Yes, absolutely. Part of the reason I love working on a college campus is being around college students who help energize me and do a really nice job of focusing on the positive so often. So thank you for sharing each of those outcomes. It is already 1:45, so we only have 15 more minutes, and I don't want to run out of time before I give you each a chance to put a plug in for your student organization and to share with those who are on the Zoom meeting now and those who may be watching this later, how they can get involved in your particular student organization. And this time I'll call on each one of you individually, but again, this is your chance to put a plug in for getting involved in your student organization and why it would benefit students and how to make that happen. And so Meg, I'm going to start with you.
Great, my first time to start. Awesome. So yeah, with Cardinal Eats, obviously food media, being a food media magazine, it's a great opportunity to finally do feature writing, which is a lot of what the Daily does, but to a greater extent, if that's what you're interested in. Still important news for sure. But like I said earlier, we have different departments, whether it's photo or design or social media or writing, just about anything you can think of that goes into a magazine. Also advertising as well. So one of the things I really enjoy about it is, again, just that different aspect of something that you've probably never done before with food media and just with magazine writing in general. But I've had a lot of great experiences from it. We're a small team, but we're mighty. We love what we do. We meet Mondays every week at 6 p.m. and I can actually send a Zoom link in the chat as well as my email if you want to get in touch with me and join our team. So yeah, just wanted to put a little plug out there. Thank you, Julie.
Yes, and great idea to put it in the chat, and then I will open the chat before we finish this session to the audience. Thanks. All right, Jared.
Yeah, so I can toss my email in the chat as well. You can also look, at we have a website through the Greenlee School and reach out on any social media platforms as well. We accept any major, any skill level at GSTV. I joined with no prior broadcast journalism experience and just kind of learned as I went. And so we accept any major, any skill level, whether you want to be on the camera or behind the scenes. It's just an opportunity to help you learn if you're looking for any of those skills. So yeah, just open anyone, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Lauren.
Awesome. So hi again, everyone. I'm Lauren. I'm the editor-in-chief of Ethos Magazine. Something fun about us is we're the longest running publication at Iowa State. We have been publishing issues since 1947. So a long time. That's kind of one cool thing I love about being involved with Ethos. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, we do edgy and honest content. So kind of creative stories you might not see in other publications. It is more, feature creative writing while still being journalistic in nature. And as Jared was saying, you don't have to be in Greenlee. It's open to any majors. My creative director and my photography director are both graphic design majors, actually. And so it's been fun teaching them about AP style and things that they didn't know about before. And, they've taught me tips about InDesign and things like that. So yeah, we actually have workshops coming up about photography and how to take photos for a story and lay out InDesign and how to put together a story with, the copy, the text, photos, design, things like that. And so, yeah, definitely if you're a beginner or if you're advanced, we have spots for everybody. If you are interested, we meet Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. over WebEx, and I will put my email in the chat as well if you want to get in touch and learn more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. And then we'll have Sage.
Hi, everyone. Once again, I'm Tyler with 88.5 KURE, and what I love about KURE is if you're passionate about music at all, there's a place for you here, or anything at all. KURE offers a platform for you to have a talk show, play your music for an hour, and you can be any major. Join us. Both of my managers are two different majors. One's an engineering major, the other's in event management. And I'm public relations. So a diversity of majors right there. In addition, we're always looking to hire people for new shows, new music, because who doesn't love new music? I know I do. And then, yeah, another thing that we always have is a 26-hour-long trivia competition, and we always need new questions for that. So that's always fun, which is coming up soon. So everyone should get registered to check that out. But if you're ever looking to get involved with radio or understand radio at all, or write content about music, definitely check out KURE. I can link our hiring page in the chat below, but yes.
Awesome. Sage Smith, obviously Daily, of course. The Daily, really, there's like any organization, there's anything you can do. Like we have earlier, I said how we have different news and we have sports and opinion, and our entertainment lifestyle. So you can dive right into the hard news. You can do feature content, etc. So really, there's no matter what you're interested in, there's definitely a place at the Daily. We even do have a PR team, so if that's more your style, we have possible opportunities there, etc. And if you're in any kind of writing class, like I took 201 and 301, you can get those stories published, so that's good for your portfolio. So that's a really good benefit as well. And of course, also, like I said too, everybody is so nice and that you really become a family. So yeah, that is at any student media. I know that for a fact. Like it's just a great place. So I will put my email in there, and then if you are interested in, please reach out. We always welcome everyone with open arms, very big open arms, because we love new reporters and new photographers, etc. So yeah.
Okay, great. So you hopefully are seeing the information in the chat here on how to get involved, how to contact each one of these student organizations. And I'll put a word out there. You don't have to pick just one. You can be involved in multiple student organizations at the same time. So for the students who are listening, do consider ways to get involved, because as you've heard from these leaders, it really does make a difference. All right, it's 1:52, so I'm going to ask one more of my own questions, and then I will open up the chat. I'm not sure we'll get to many of the audience questions. We need more time. I knew this would happen, but I am going to take the host's privilege here and ask a First Amendment question. This event is part of our First Amendment series that we have at Greenlee, and so we work hard to bring together individuals who are involved in exercising or educating about those 5 freedoms of the First Amendment. So as part of our First Amendment series, with this being one of our first events of the year, I want to ask the group to share, and I should say I have stolen this question from someone who registered, but when you think of First Amendment, what do you think of? And I'll go ahead and call on each of you again, just to kind of move things along just a little bit. So Jared, get us started.
Yeah, I mean, first thing that popped into my mind was speech. I mean, like I learned in your class, SPAR, that speech is the first one that you think about of the freedoms. And so, that's really what, journalism comes down to, is having that freedom of speech to share news, ideas, and just the relevant content to society. And that's such an important thing to be able to have in our country, is being able to share those ideas and news openly, because that's not the case everywhere in the world. So yeah, I mean, just speech and the importance of having free speech is a big thing.
That's what we'd love to hear. Thank you. All right, I'm going to jump over to Sage.
Yes, I think news, information, sharing, like the First Amendment is so important to every aspect of our lives. Like if you think about it, like it allows us to do everything that we do on a daily basis, whether it is speech or our press, or practicing a religion, etc., assembly and then petition. So so it's just like the root of our freedom. It allows us to do everything, and I just think it's just so important. So when I hear First Amendment, I just think, like I said, sharing information, and it's just news, and it's also in your personal life, etc. Like it's everywhere, and everybody should know the First Amendment. So many people don't know the 5 freedoms. But yeah, and that just a really quick little story. When freshman year, when I switched to journalism for biology, I was in Julie Roosa's class, and I was learning about the First Amendment and everything. And then I was in MWL, so I went to the MWL Commons with one of the community advisors, and we stood there and we called people over and quizzed them on the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment, and hardly anybody knew them. I think we might have got 1% knew all 5. So yeah, it's just really important and deserves all the attention in the world, I think. So yeah.
Thank you. And your findings mirror what is out there publicly too, that just so many of us aren't aware of what those 5 freedoms are. Lauren.
Yeah, so actually when I think First Amendment, I think of Hamilton Hall, and the First Amendment is written right when you go down the stairs. I have a lot of classes in the basement, and so I always look at that right before going downstairs. And so I just kind of have that image in my head whenever I think about the First Amendment. And, you know, I just think we're really grateful to have those 5 freedoms. And as Sage was talking about, a lot of people don't know all the 5 freedoms. You know, usually they know speech and press, maybe religion, but not the other 2. And I think it's really important to educate and know those freedoms, and that how privileged we are to have those freedoms here in our country. You know, there's other places in the world where they don't have that and they aren't able to speak up and speak their minds. I mean, for example, I really like learning about Nazi Germany. My favorite book is The Book Thief. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend. But you know, they weren't allowed to speak out against their government and speak out against the persecution of a whole people. And so I just really think about that and how sometimes we take it for granted that we're able to write about what we want and we're able to speak up about things that aren't right. And I just think it's something we all need to appreciate more.
Thank you. Beautiful. All right, Tyler and then Meg.
When I think of the First Amendment, I just got done with media law, so my first thought is always media law, and then I always think of as freedom of speech and just how lucky we are to be able to talk openly about anything we want to, and there's no censorship. When it comes to working in music, one of the things that I think is so great about the First Amendment and freedom of speech is music is kind of the first thing, at least for me, where you form your identity, and just being able to provide anyone with music they might not have heard before, and you are able to like, kind of help people. I don't know what I'm saying, but help people form their identity potentially with something new that they might not have heard before.
Yeah, when I think about the First Amendment, I think it goes back to universities and how they were created to be these places of knowledge and places of discussion. And so when I think about the First Amendment, I also think about student journalism and how important that is. And it's the ability for young voices to finally get their messages out and tell the world and show their grievances for what's going on in many different ways, whether it's speech or press or petition or assembly or religion. Like there's so many things that we want to do and so many things I'm sure that we want to change. And so that's for me one of the most important things about the First Amendment, and just being able to share what it is that we're concerned about and what it is we want other people to know, and to let people know the issues that matter the most to us. So there's so many things I think that can be talked about, but I think student journalists are doing some of the best work today.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you so much to each of you for sharing your thoughts about the First Amendment. I think you've really, in your comments, have moved each one of us. It is already 1:59, so we're at the end of our allotted time. If our panelists are able, I think they're willing to stick around. And if any in the audience, if you want to stick around, I have opened up the chat for just a couple of more minutes. But before we do that, first of all, I want to say to our panelists on behalf of Greenlee overall, on behalf of Iowa State University, and really on behalf of the United States of America, thank you for the work that you do. It really is making a difference. Sometimes I'm sure it feels thankless, but we are so thankful for each of you and for other students who are on your staff and so forth. Pass along our thanks to them as well. I also want to just put a plug in for First Amendment Days, which will be here before we know it, scheduled for April 12 through 16. And I can put the website for our First Amendment Days events in the chat so you can find out more, and be sure to mark your calendars for that. And then finally, if you don't mind, I have one more poll for you. I'm realizing I probably should have asked the question of, do you know the 5 freedoms and what are they? But for this poll, I'm just curious how you found out about this particular event so that we can continue to grow our audience. So I'm going to launch this next poll. It's just going to ask you how you became aware of today's panel. And let me say too, at the same time, thank you to each of you who are in the audience for joining us today, taking 50 minutes out of a Friday to listen to these student leader voices. So here comes my last poll of the day. Asking you, how did you hear about today's event? And you can pick as many that apply here on this list. And I may not have covered every option. So just a quick poll. How did you hear about today's event? You all are welcome to jump in if you have the ability to access the poll. Great. And just maybe out of curiosity, let me end the poll and share the results to all of you. Hopefully you can see that. So we see that class and extra credit are a biggie here, which I don't blame you. The more points, the better, right? So whatever it takes. But thank you. I'll hang on to that result, and we will continue to publicize our events. So thank you once again to the panelists. Again, we're at 2 o'clock. So those who need to sign off, thank you for being here. And if you'd like to stick around and ask a question, please do so in the chat. Otherwise, have a great Friday, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, I think as people are signing off, let me just say again, my thanks to each of you. Those of you who are graduating, we're going to miss you. Those of you who have another year or so to go, we look forward to more good stuff coming from you headed our direction. And is there anything else that didn't get asked that you all would like to share about doing journalism in the last year or so?
I think this kind of sounds like a negative, but I think it's a positive. I think it was definitely like a make or break for a lot of individual people. And I mean that in a positive way, because I feel like the pandemic kind of pushed people towards what they are passionate about for sure. Like it really secured down their passion or showed them that it's not something, whatever they're doing wasn't meant for them kind of thing. And so then they found something else that was serving their purpose better. So I think that was just kind of a positive overall in the pandemic, not even specifically with student media. So it's kind of off topic, I guess, but I saw it within student media as well. So I think that was actually a good thing because it kind of shook up our worlds and we had to really think about what we wanted and where we wanted to focus our energy. So yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else?
Kind of piggybacking off of what Sage said, I felt like it was a great almost training for if there's a big major event 5, 10, 20, 50 years down the line, where if I wouldn't know what to do in my job, I have this training from this pandemic to where I need to know how to be adaptable in any situation. And I feel like working in student media the past year has really helped me learn how to internally communicate, externally communicate, and just understand my job better, and how I need to just be prepared for all situations more and more. And I feel like that's something that I'm going to take with me forever after this in my career. And I think that's something that really helped me in 2020.
Yeah, excellent point.
One thing I thought was really important was just from like a medical perspective, like how important information dissemination was to so many people through journalism and getting the information out to people. Like these are the facts about COVID. These are the facts about what's going on at the US Capitol. Like just so many things going on and how important that is to get the information where it needs to go and showing people, this is what you need to be aware of. This is how you can take care of yourselves and those around you. So just from a safety perspective, I think extremely important.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Meg, and I just want to echo what Julie's shirt says, what my notebook says. America needs journalists. And I think now more than ever, people are realizing the importance of information and trusting the media more because, the media has been attacked in recent years, and especially having a leader who wasn't supportive of what we do, I think was hard on a lot of people. But, now with this pandemic, as awful as it's been and all the lives that have been lost, I think some good things have come out of it, and people are more willing to trust journalists and their sources now.
All right. Well, on that note, which I think is a positive, uplifting note, that maybe we'll start to see an increase in trust in journalism that is essential in order to combat misinformation. We need to have an audience that trusts journalists. So thank you again for being here and for all that you do. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Julie.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. This is great. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yes.
Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah,
Bye. Thank you
bye.
again.
Bye.